Anyways, guys, we are on the second to last position, and it's a loaded one, arguably the deepest in this entire draft. The draft is like, it's so close, guys. I'm so ready for it. But, yeah, let's get into these receivers. What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the NFL. Please like and subscribe. Hope y'all are ready for our 2026 NFL Draft wide receiver prospect rankings and scouting profiles, whatever you want to call it. I'll give you guys my top 15 receivers. I'm not going to lie to y'all. This is the toughest position to do it at because it is so deep. It's like not even funny. Like, it's crazy how deep this position is this year. I'm not going to tell y'all that there's, again, like it's as loaded at the top as maybe some other years, but still, this is a position that, again, most years has some really good players. This year, it's crazy. There's certain players that I'm like, I want to put them higher, but I can't, certain things. And this is a position where, again, I think towards the top, I think I'm pretty towards, again, what a lot of people are thinking on the consensus, which I'm happy about because I was getting a little worried there for a little bit, but still, that's its own thing. From my evaluations, this is going to be a wild rankings, guys. That's all I can say. But anyways, we have 15 receivers to get through, so it's already going to be super long. I'm going to tell you that right now. I'll be as fast as possible. 5 honorable mentions. And yeah, let's get into it. All right, you might be asking, who's Brennan Thompson? Again, you'd be asking that if you didn't watch the Combine. But if you did watch the Combine, he threw down like a 4.28 40. So again, that's where it kind of comes in there. And you might be asking, is this guy actually a top 20 receiver in this year's class? No. But he's fast. And I mean, he threw up 1,000 yards last year, so give him it there. A lot of people, though, think he's probably around the top 25. I think he should be able to get drafted just because of how fast he is. And he will probably be a returner in the league. But yeah, he really didn't get on the field at Oklahoma because he literally could only run like 3 routes, and he got absolutely just tossed. His best year was 2023, though, I think. Out of those 2 years, and then at Texas he didn't play there. Last year, though, he went to Mississippi State. They're like, we need someone to do something, and he did something. So that's great. But is he a top 20 receiver in this year's class? No, but he's fast, so we got on this list. Sorry, Kobe Young, you would have been top 20 because he's actually one of my top 20 guys. But I had to say Brennan Young, and I didn't want to make this too long. Not Brennan Young. You should combine them. Brennan Thompson. Anyways, next up we have Makai Fields. A lot of people have him in their top 10. Some people have him like as high as a day 2 pick, which I think is definitely plausible. Problem for me is that Makai Fields, out of the 15 guys I have ranked ahead of him, all get open better. Really just separation, to be honest with you guys. That's really the only reason he's not ahead of him, because contested catch-wise, possession-wise, he's probably one of the more surefire guys in this entire draft. But for me, and the fact that last year at Notre Dame he really didn't get much better. I mean, he got open pretty consistently at Virginia, but last year, again, it wasn't like against better competition at times. It really didn't. There was definitely a disconnect there in terms of the separation he was able to get, and for that reason, he's here. But obviously, he's gonna be a good receiver in the NFL, guys. I don't really need to tell you all that. But again, he's my wide receiver 16. And again, it just tells you how deep this class is. But that's kind of my thing there. And again, some people are like, what the hell? But honestly, guys, from what I saw, he just doesn't get open, again, really to the clip that I need him to, and that's really why he's not top 15. But realistically, yes, if you want to put him in the top 15, do so. I'm just on the lower end of his opinions here. But still, he's obviously a really good player, and I think he'll be a good guy in the league. It's just I don't think he'll be, again, he just doesn't get open enough. That's really just what it is. Next up, we have Malik Benson. He's kind of a guy that I don't really look at with, again, the highest of, like, regards. Because honestly, last year, he just simply is just a guy that gives you very versatile alignments is probably the best way to put it. Again, obviously, you don't want to have him be an X receiver, but you can put him in a lot of different spots, and his route versatility is huge. And also, he's going to be a guy that's going to make a lot of big-time plays in the league, whether it's over the top or really just kind of opening up a layer of the field that a lot of other receivers can't. And it's because of how smooth his routes are and how timely he makes his kind of adjustments, and those things I think are just really advanced for this position. Obviously, he's a very experienced player, but for, again, a lot of these other guys, he just has rare traits that I think will be really hard for some of those guys to kind of obtain. But yeah, Malik Benson's definitely ahead there. Again, you look at Germie Bernard, which we'll get to in a little bit. They're very similar in that. Again, fact that, again, they're very advanced, but at the same time, Malik Benson, just there's definitely a limitation in terms of his athleticism, but he's still definitely a really solid prospect. Then we have Jeff Caldwell, and this is a guy that, I mean, where do I even start? While his numbers weren't crazy last year at Cincinnati, guys, he's just a freak, to be honest with you guys. He's got top. I'm not going to say he's the best athlete or receiver in this year's class, but he's pretty damn close. And there were some routes that just, I'm saying, like a lot of corners in the NFL are going to really struggle with holding. It's just, is he able to really put up a consistent play and really, because he's not an experienced player really at all. It's just, again, you can't ignore some of the plays you see on tape. That's why I put him here. And for me, he's, again, definitely a top 20 guy because there's just a lot of potential with him here. It'll be interesting to see what he does in the league. Again, he's definitely a guy who might never actually like translate to be like a full-time starter or anything, but he definitely has that potential there. Then we have Kevin Coleman. He is, I think, other than Makai, I feel is probably the most well-known out of these guys. Obviously, in Missouri last year, he's their number one receiver. Definitely, again, an established guy here. His biggest issues is he really just doesn't have a feel against zone. But, again, I don't want to get too deep into this. All you already know is that he actually gets open really well. Top of the route, he gets a lot of separation. I'm not going to get too deep into it. He's an established player. He'll definitely be drafted, again, reasonably high. I'm going to probably say, the 5th round. But, yeah, other than that, those are your 5 on... Wait. Am I tweaking? No, I'm not. Those are your top 5 honorable mentions. Let's get into our top 15 guys. Starting out with Antonio Williams, the lone Clemson receiver in this year's featured top rankings. Yeah.
The true freshman's come in the ball game at running back. Klubnik from the pocket wants to take the shot for Williams, who makes the catch. Antonio Williams, 20 down.
All right, guys. First receiver we're looking at is Antonio Williams, the Clemson receiver. Anyways, though. His season kind of went the way Cade Klubnik's season went. We'll get to him in the quarterback rankings. Hopefully that comes out tomorrow. We'll see, though. But, yes, for Antonio, he had kind of an up-and-down career overall. Last year, really statistically, not that much farther off in 2024. And really, if you look at the advanced metrics, especially if you're talking about yards of separation per route and even ADOT, he was actually higher than he was in 2024. Again, he had 11 touchdowns in 2024, and he was, again, it was his best overall season. Again, obviously statistically, even on tape in a lot of ways, too. So I'm not going to, again, go on that or anything, but there were a lot of good things we still saw in 2025, despite that season being very disappointing for the team and himself overall. But again, we look at Antonio as a prospect. He's a guy that shows a lot of tangible things that you could definitely see projecting well into the NFL, but there's still some things, again, we'll get into pretty very shortly where it's kind of an issue. First things first, yes, he can catch a football. I think his drop rate last season, like 4%, it was really low. There are some times where, again, he doesn't high point the ball as well as you'd want to, and that kind of leads to some, the ball kind of being out, like, up for grabs a little bit, which is kind of the one thing you wouldn't like about him. But overall, very, again, strong hands, and he, again, overall, very confident. Route running, there's a lot of intricate things I want to talk about with each one of these guys. There's just really no point. Biggest thing with him, though, is he's really able to get off the line and kind of create some sort of... It's just an advantage. You can just feel the advantage early in the snap in these short routes where he's able to kind of like... That first cut he makes is always beating the defender. And again, in these short routes, especially in terms of like a zig or like some of these like quick hitters to the flat. Like stuff like that. Just... gets to his spot really quick, and that's why I think he runs, again, his short routes are very, very good. The problem with his intermediate routes is the fact that when he, again, gets to the top of the route, it's just not crisp, and also the fact that throughout the route, it's kind of, there's no actual, like, straight angle to it. And that's just something that I think, again, for a guy who's not really going to be able to adjust his route in a way to at least technically to be able to still be on time with the quarterback, which is really where it's at, guys. If the quarterback's in the same page as the receiver and the receiver's doing what he needs to get open, which might not be, again, a textbook definition of the route, he's not a guy that can do that either, so it's kind of a weird thing with him, and also, again, his routes just aren't as precise there. Deeper routes are fine. I really love the way he runs a post, really can climb upfield well with that. His corner routes are also really good. Again, there's some other, like, crossing things, but, guys, anyone can run across here. Good field there. It's just I don't think his deep routes are anything special. He's got good tracking, especially on these balls. They're towards the front shoulder, which is a pretty cool thing. But overall, again, nothing special. He's got, honestly, for me, average speed. He's a guy that can obviously get downfield and make plays. It's just the fact that I don't really think he'll ever have, like, again, he's not going to break away and really, again, completely take the top of a defense. And no one really sees him as that threat either. And that kind of goes, whether we're talking about yak or really just, again, running the right route. So that's what I'll say on that. Also, his speed isn't something that's going to be something that's going to create extra separation for him or anything like that. But yeah, he's got definitely adequate speed, I'd say. Acceleration is a 92 for sure. This is where I think the separation is. He is a guy that can get out of the route really, or not out of the route, out of the break really well. It's just the fact that the speed isn't going to help him out. Once he gets to that top speed, he's kind of there, and he's got to get the ball then, or the corner can either catch up to him or not. I don't know. But yeah, he's got borderline elite acceleration there. Catch radius, honestly, guys, is something that I don't really see as much of an issue in the league. That's where I put it at an 84 because, again, like I said, when he high points, it's not really the greatest thing, but he has a big enough frame where he can still make the play. It's just, Klubnik had some crazy throws last year. Other than that, though, I don't know much to talk about his route efficiency. He kind of just goes into his actual routes here, which, again, because, again, he doesn't have a ton of nuance, which we'll talk about right here. There's just, again, he runs routes kind of like to the T, and there's not really any... Again, like I said, creativity, and there's no, like, reading out the play. Should I adjust this? I don't care about his jump ball ability or his steal. They're both fine. But, again, he catches touchdowns. What else do you want me to tell you? That'll be a big part of his game. At the top of the route, again, like I said, he gets separation, but he doesn't really get as much as I think he could have. His release is a big weakness of his. Probably his biggest weakness is the fact that he doesn't really have much of a diverse package. While on short routes, he's definitely able to get out in that first cut and make a play. It's not because his release is really making any advantage. His yak game overall just isn't really that effective. I mean, he'll break out a tackle here occasionally, but he's not really transitioning into the play great, and that's because his hand fluidness is honestly not great. It's because he really needs to concentrate in making the play, which I think is, again, a good fundamental skill for him to have because he just doesn't drop passes, and again, even bad throws will still make the play on. It's just I don't really think he's really ever translated that actually being, again, a big threat for him. He can't block. He's a solid athlete overall. I mean, he makes plays that, again, a lot of other guys can't, and really just... Again, we look at him for sure. He can win with athleticism for sure. But for me, he's going to be a guy to be competent for sure. And honestly, I say 77 potential, which is definitely a little above average because of the fact that he's a guy you can really rely on in a lot of ways. And I'm not going to say he's going to be your number one receiver, but in certain situations, he can definitely give you competent level play and, again, be a guy for you. So while it's a 74 overall grade, because overall he's not really a special player in any way, he still gives you very, very reliable skills that a guy like Deontay Johnson did. And you look what he did with the Steelers in a, again, short passing game oriented offense back in like 2021. Again, it worked out pretty well for him.
And streaking downfield is Brazzell, who makes the catch and runs to the end zone.
Next up is a guy who had a breakout season in 2025. That was Chris Brazzell out of Tennessee. Again, he's the best Tennessee receiver since Cedric Tillman and Jalen Hyatt were around. I'm not going to say he was as explosive as Jalen Hyatt was back in that 2022 season. But after, again, 2 seasons at Tulane where he really didn't separate himself despite being a guy that, again, obviously was a deep threat. He went to Tennessee in 2024 and had, again, like I said, despite having a really raw route package, he still was able to develop there. And then last year was their number one receiver, had a 1,000-yard season, was a big-time, big play player for them. And he obviously, again, caught a lot of people off guard with some of the big plays he made. But yeah, last year, a lot of his success that I think, again, like, allowed him to, I won't just say stay on the field, but also be a guy that could be a hard guy to plan against is because all his vertical routes were based on different releases. And I think that's something for at least a cornerback who's in the SEC, that's a hard thing to deal with. And the fact that, again, they weren't really able to deal with against him really, again, led to his success. Even though, again, there wasn't a ton of diversity in his route tree this past season. Still, it was a big improvement from what we even saw back in 2023 at Tulane, which is a big reason that, again, a lot of people like him here in this draft, including me. But for Chris, we look at him as a prospect. His hands aren't that special. Well, I do think his ability to kind of adjust the way he kind of, I don't know how to put this. I want to say it's not really late hands. It's just the way he kind of puts his hands out there to catch the ball is cool. Again, in terms of the trajectory of it, it's not really something that I really think separates the fact that there are times where, again, you look at it over the middle. If the cornerback gets his hands in there, they're going to knock the ball out. Or, again, in traffic in a lot of ways, he's just not going to make a ton of those catches, which, again, is really where I say it's not that he's not physical. It's just that his, like, overall, he's going to drop a pass here and there in those situations. But you look at him as a route runner, his medium routes honestly aren't that big of an issue. I just don't see him, again, exploding out of him too great. And if I, like, look, again, the technical definition of his routes, and then you look at, again, what he kind of does, again, you look at a sheet from PFF or, again, a next-gen sheet, and then you look at kind of what's going on with that. There's not a lot of, again, like, intricate detail. You can see where Joey Aguilar is thinking, like, yeah, I can get it to him because he's, again, kind of creating the space. There's not a lot of that in the medium routes. The fact that, again, they're not too precise is kind of why I stick it at 78. His short routes aren't much of an issue, though. Again, he runs it pretty well. His deep route running is really good, though, because, like I said, he can climb up field, and whenever he gets to that out-breaking cut, it's very, very hard for a corner to be able to stay with him because of the fact that he kind of reduces the field they have by, again, using a hand, maybe taking a step in and then out, like things like that are really big to what he can do. Obviously, though, his best trait overall in terms of it, again, like an innate skill as a receiver is the tracking of the deep ball. He kicks him up really, really well. I'm not gonna say he was like Tyler Lockett was, because I mean he could see anything. But again, if you throw it out to him, he's gonna find a way to find the ball. Again, even if it's an incompletion or stuff, he'll at least be in the spot where, again, he can kind of get a pass interference or something because of the how well he distracts the ball in the air. His speed's definitely a 90. He's got legit again, deep speed. I don't think it's something that, again, every single cornerback's going to have to completely, again, take note of. But again, if you're going against him and you're not ready, he's going to blow by you. It's just going to happen. Acceleration is also really good. I think this is probably a huge thing with him. He's not just a guy that, again, it's not just build-up speed. This is where I think his route running comes into play here. Whenever he makes a cut, there is, a really good transition. And again, I think it's just because of the fact that he's got very smooth hips and, like, just, again, like, the way he plants with his knees is really, like, and, like, just, like, the external force there is really, really efficient. And for that reason, I think that's why his acceleration is so good, despite him maybe not, again, being a violent route runner in that sense. Route efficiency, again, 91. It's just that, again, this is the thing with him here is that he always gets to his spot. Again, like I said, while he's not as advanced as I think you'd want, again, it's still a thing where he again, any sort of stem route on anything vertical, he's able to get to his spot really well. Catch radius gave a 110. I mean, he's just got huge wingspan, guys. Again, you throw it in his vicinity, he'll be able to make a play. Jump ball is 95. This is really a red zone thing, guys. And kind of the red zone feel goes, again, right with it. Really aware of the sideline in terms of, again, the actual feel. But, again, he's able to, again, go out there and make the play. It's kind of that simple there. Again, his route nuance isn't anything crazy. Almost everything's going to be vertical, which, again, but he's pretty precise overall. Top of the route, I said a 79. He doesn't create as much separation I think you want, but at the same time, he's still, again, quick enough where he'll be on the right spot, and he'll kind of have the leverage over the defender. Other than that, I guess his release is fine. It's powerful. But yeah, he's not a yak threat really at all. He gets tackled, I think, way too often in the open field, which is kind of an annoying thing, I guess. Again, the speed definitely helps out with that. His hand fluid is not great. Again, over the middle especially. Again, he kind of throws those hands out there. Again, there are times where the corner is able to, again, to knock the ball out because, again, he's just kind of a little bit later, again, at least with the coordination. He's not a good run blocker. Second straight guy, I guess. We'll get to some better ones, don't worry. His athleticism is also very, very good. Again, when you can high point a ball like that and not really be as coordinated, I think is, again, really just speaks to his athleticism. Potential 76. I think he's a guy that, I'm not gonna say is gonna be a one-trick pony, but there's definitely a little bit of chance for that. Christian Watson's a very good comparison. Maybe not as an athlete, because Christian Watson was by far the best athlete or receiver in that 2022 draft. But again, overall, in terms of his route technique and really, again, the way he gets upfield, it's very, very similar. I'm gonna say he's kind of a more diet Christian Watson in the goods and the bads, but still, there's definitely a lot of similarities with the way they run routes.
Good time. Mayaba fires downfield. There he is. Makai Lemon makes the grab.
And next up is Makai Lemon, the USC receiver who had a monster 2025 season. He was the Biletnikoff winner and really made a name for himself. I mean, whether good or bad at the combine, I mean, in the draft process too. Definitely has seen a little bit of his draft stock fall, but at the same time, he's one of the big three in this year's class. And, again, the film does not lie because he is an absolute savant. He is silky smooth with his routes. In the red zone, he's a fun guy to watch do his thing. Last year, though, at USC, him and Jaden Mayaba, who I don't even think was always, at least in zone, really know what was going on with them. But his tells really actually made it a lot easier for him, which I think is honestly a really weird thing that went on there. But, hey, it worked. And, obviously, 2024 with Miller Moss, that didn't really work too great. Still, again, showed a lot of potential, though. But last year, again, that was the big numbers. And that is why he propelled way up draft boards. But still, he was obviously a top 10 guy preseason as well. But, again, you look at Makai as a prospect. Again, you look at him overall, he's arguably the best route runner in this year's class, especially in the intermediate part of the field. I mean, again, it's rare to find guys that are, again, always able to kind of adjust their routes to whatever the coverage look is. He might not even read it right pre-snap, but still able to kind of naturally fit into a spot. And, again, put Jaden in a spot where, again, while he's, again, kind of going through his progressions, having his feet in the right spot, basically it's, again, perfectly coordinated with what Jaden wanted to do last year, and I think that was, again, a very, I'm not going to say cognizant thing, but it was huge. His hands are really good. I mean, yeah, obviously you're not going to see him high point the ball, but, again, obviously he literally dropped like 5 passes last year. What am I going to say? Deep ball tracking and his deep route running aren't really the greatest things. Again, he runs a really nice crosser because he's really able to cut across the field and make it hard for even a safety to kind of know to cut it off because of how kind of like he can really adjust the route really well. That's a lot of release. But the actual tracking of the deep ball is something he could definitely work on. Again, there were definitely some plays where I think his initial steps when the ball was thrown were off, and that really hurt his ability to kind of recover to the ball, which I think is, again, part of the reason he didn't make as many explosive plays as you might have thought last year. But still, overall, it's not exactly an issue. Speed, I gave it 75. Kind of just, I wouldn't say average speed, but he's more quick than fast is probably the best way to put it. I know how, again, generic that sounds, but it's just kind of true with them. Solid acceleration, but it's more the fact that he's, again, anticipating what's going to go on, and he makes the step earlier than you do than anything else. Route efficiency, I give it 86. I'm going to say almost all his routes are going to be one step shorter than your average 6'3" receiver. And for that reason, that's a big difference. But this is where we get kind of like, again, again, the versatility, not really versatility concerns. What he's not, he is not a guy you want to throw the ball 4 yards over. He's not a guy that you want to throw a 50-50 ball up to. I mean, maybe he can make the play, but realistically, it's not his role in the offense. He's going to be a slot guy. This is where you get really good. He has the best route nuance in the entire draft class. I mean, like I said, he is a guy that you could put on a choice route, and there's probably 8 different things he can do off of it that, again, if the quarterback's on the same page for him, he will find a way to get open. And again, we look at this like just logistically, that is something that it's very, very hard to find. Especially again coming out of college. But on tape, that was something we saw very, very consistently, even if, he didn't get the ball. Red zone feels also awesome. Again, this is really just against zone. He dominates it, cooks it up. I mean, you could have a cornerback who has outside, linebacker who is inside. He'll find a way to get into a spot where there's even the smallest of throwing lanes, and he'll be able to catch it underneath and make the play. Top of the route, awesome. Again, it's just something you see on tape. I want to say there's a lot that goes into it, but it's really not that important. All you know is that, yeah, he gets open a lot. Again, 2 or 3 yard separation there, big time. We get on these slower corners, I'd say. Release 66. Yeah, it's not great. Against press, he gets beaten up sometimes, but not the end of the world with, again, usually he's able to get off the line better. You definitely need to see him more in the slot, though, so who really cares? Yak threat, he is a guy that can make you miss pretty consistently. I think that's something that kind of goes under the radar with him, because you look at him, oh, yeah, he made the catch, but, like, yeah, he can do something after it for sure. Obviously not going to try to run you over. Hand fluidness is solid. Nothing insane, though. Most of his routes, this really becomes an issue, so kind of under-evaluated trait of his, if I had to be honest with you. I don't care about his run blocking. His athleticism is definitely solid. Nothing insane, though. Like I said, there's a lot more important stuff that goes into it. Potential gave an 84. This is a guy that's going to be a highly productive guy in the NFL. It's just of, again, how much you really see that as a sexy trait or something that's going to actually win you games. Anyways, though, Wanner Robinson's my comparison. That's a lazy take, I know that, but they're very, very similar guys with the balls in their hands. Pause. But still, Makai Lemon, I got Wanner Robinson's comparison. 84.6, pretty damn good grade.
Play of the drive. Saying getting a little bit of heat. Going deep to the end zone. Touchdown, Carnell Tate.
Up next, we have Carnell Tate, who emerged big time. I mean, he was good in 2024, but in that Texas game, he really put himself out there, and he had a monster season last year. 9 touchdowns, 875 yards, 51 catches. Huge time contested catch. Really just ex-receiver-esque season. He was one of the best receivers in the Big Ten. No, he was the best receiver in the Big Ten last year. I'm not even going to lie to y'all. Maybe. Anyways, though, after a freshman season where he saw limited targets because he didn't get open a ton, 2024 he was pretty damn good. But last year, I mean, again, you have Jeremiah Smith there, so that helps a little bit. But still, he in a lot of situations was going against again, honestly, their number one corner because of the fact that they kind of they honestly put their top corner on an eye on him. I'm really just looking at the I'm really just looking at the playoff game. But anyways, other than that, again, you obviously had Jeremiah Smith doing his thing too. So keep that in mind there. But got Carnell Tate, monster season last year. A lot of things to like about him. As a prospect, like I said, there's not a ton of stuff I want to get too deep into because, I mean, it's not too hard to understand what he is. Biggest thing, though, is he's got absolutely perfect hands. Pause again. But still, you look at him as a guy, it's going to be really hard to throw him a pass that he's not going to catch. I'm just going to be honest with y'all. And it's really because, again, he possesses some of the strongest hands in this year's draft, obviously, but also it's just gifted coordination for sure. But, again, he just doesn't drop anything. I'll be honest with you guys. I don't know if it's almost as good as D-Hop. D-Hop, I think those are the best hands I've seen. Again, if you look back, again, if we look back at him, like, if I look back at his college team from back in 2018, you can see it. It's like it's hard to find guys with hands that good, but he's pretty damn close. His route running isn't my favorite. His short routes are always not really meant to get separation, more of just a possession sort of thing, which is, I guess, okay. But any of these like quick hitting slants, things like that, aren't really meant for big plays. They're just really getting like 5 or so yards. They're consistent, but at the same time, there's not a lot of explosion. There are times where they get a little sloppy. I don't care about his medium route running really at all. It's going to be a lot of digs. He's going to box out and make the play. His deep route running is his biggest trait. It's honestly probably his best innate trait, I'd say, is because of the fact that, honestly, any sort of route where he makes, again, really 2 drastic cuts, if we're talking about a 2-cut corner route or a slugo, stuff like that, those are routes, even comeback routes, where he really sinks his hips well, and he's able to, I wouldn't say get a ton of separation, but he's really able to move the defender to the way he wants him to. Again, especially in these deeper routes. This is where, again, you talk about the leverage is huge downfield. Even if he's not blowing by him, he's still able to make, again, put himself in a spot to make the play. Deep ball tracking is obviously elite. Borderline, I'm going to say elite. There are times where he gets a little bit off, but still, his body control with that is huge. His speed's not awesome, kind of really just average. Again, this is kind of where we talk about the separation aspect. He doesn't get as much separation I think you'd want, and it's partially because he just doesn't separate, again, or really, again, have the get off to get there. Acceleration, same thing. Again, not really a big part of it. Again, big strength of his. Again, not a weakness though. That's what I want to really preface there. Let's get into some things. Yeah, he runs routes pretty well. Catch radius is definitely going to be good. It doesn't take a genius to figure that out. Obviously, his premier jump ball ability at this position for sure. Again, most of his touchdowns were jump balls, and really again, it's just him able to get around and make the play. Red zone feels also really good. I think that's something in the league that I think gets overlooked a little bit. Other than that though, not too much more. Again, I'll talk about this. This is really goes back to the deep routes. There's a lot of things he does, again, like I said, influence leverage. And even then, like we're talking about medium routes, you can kind of set that up a play or two before, and that's a really, again, important thing there. Keep going down here. His release, honestly, isn't that good. It's really just a power release. That's like a diamond of sorts. And he's kind of got this like weird hitch he does, which I like a lot. But that's something that could, again, if he gets timed up right, we'll get him jammed consistently. And he really doesn't use his hands too well there either. He's not a big yak guy. Hand fluidness, I think, is pretty solid. Again, it really just goes on the coordination. I think he's gonna more of his hands being like insanely strong than anything. Which again, he has the best hands in this year's class. That's the first thing I always want to talk about there. Run blocking isn't the biggest thing with him, but again, it's still not an issue because again, he at least maintains his blocks. Potential game of 91. This is gonna be a guy that, again, obviously really good athlete. Great body control. It's more of, again, the things you don't really, again, kind of the boring things with him that make him a great athlete more than anything. But yeah, I said a 91 for the potential. This is going to be a guy, again, like I said, 10 plus touchdowns this season, maybe. But yeah, I don't want to say Devontae Adams, guys, but like, yeah. Again, does Devontae come out of the draft at the same level of hands? Probably not, because again, Devontae's hands in really the first 2 or 3 years of his career were actually an issue of his. But again, like, he's just a guy I see making a lot of plays in the red zone, and like very, very similar back shoulder techniques, which is huge. But 86.7 for Carnell. Yeah, he's better than Lemon.
And a man coverage here. Always got to find Denzel Boston. Blitz comes. Williams throws. Corner Boston. Oh, man, what a catch. Automatic.
All right, we're on to another crazy good receiver. That's Denzel Boston. I almost said Washington. Out of Washington. There we go. He had himself a monster 2024 and 2025. I mean, he didn't really have a good quarterback. Will Rogers. But anyways, in 2024. But last year with DeMond Williams, he had a big-time season. Most of the games he played, he was the only guy in that offense. Again, I'm not going to say Jonah Coleman. He was a good player. But there weren't many guys in that offense that really, again, were too big of threats at receiver, and they needed someone to do something, and you bet he did. And I'd go to the extent that he's arguably better than Jalen Polk and, what the hell is the other dude's name? McMillan. But he's not better than Adunze. He's pretty damn good, but yeah, he's not Adunze. But obviously, big play throughout last season. He was a volume receiver for sure. And in the past seasons, he's just been really freaking good. And again, obviously, all Big Ten and all that. But for Denzel as a receiver, this is a guy that, again, I think the difference between him and Carnell Tate in terms of hands, is he a guy who has, again, the consistency, maybe not as much, but like I said, DeMond Williams last year, there were some floaters he threw up there. I mean, again, he just made ridiculous catches. So, again, Carnell Tate obviously made a ton of crazy catches, but Denzel Boston's a guy that can make even crazier catches. That's really where I go with that. Hella casual, I understand that, but that's the best way I can really, again, show the difference there. But yeah, he drops a couple passes. But yeah, elite hands. Route running, I don't even care about because he gets open. Are any of his routes really that special? No. Is there, again, anything that stands out? I mean, maybe the fact that he kind of has a little bit of a shoulder shrug at times, which I think is subconscious, which is kind of weird. But overall, again, his route running is really nothing crazy. He tracks the deep ball really well. It's more the fact that he's able to adjust mid-route to it than anything. But yeah, there are times where I think this could definitely be a growing trait for him for sure. So definitely a raw ability. Really good speed though. Again, we talk about some of his, again, shorter routes, honestly, where he doesn't really have the ability, at least in shorter spaces, to be, again, completely extend. Like, this is kind of where the deeper routes come in. Again, you watch some of his, again, post routes last year. They really weren't ran that awesome. But, again, because he's faster than the guy a lot of the times, he's able to make the play. Again, he's kind of more of an explosive guy in that sense. But we're going back to short routes. That's kind of where I think this is a limiter for him. Or not limiter. It gets limited. There we go. But anyways, acceleration is anything crazy. This really comes out of these like really sharp cuts. We're talking about an out route like 3 yards downfield or like 4 yards, which is kind of ridiculous. But he ran some of those last year. Anyways, those routes were kind of like eesh. But other than that, I don't have too much to complain about there. His jump ball ability is off the charts. Honestly, I don't even know why they didn't use this as much. Again, it's kind of just Washington offense pissed off there. You caught literally every jump ball that was thrown at him. Like, what am I supposed to say there? Catch radius is insane. Again, he's not the tallest in the world. It's just the fact that his wingspan's insane. Red zone feels really good. Other than that, something I kind of would want to talk about is his release. It's the fact that it's just, there's not a ton of finesse to it. and there's certain corners that I think, especially earlier in the season, gave him a little bit of trouble with him I won't say getting pressed, but kind of getting off the line the way he wanted to. That kind of hurt his overall production at times last season, but overall, not too big of a deal, but definitely something you can definitely get better at. And like I said, it's a yak threat, not the best. It's probably the best way to put it, because again, he breaks tackle here and there. He's a guy who can definitely, he's got a rubbery lower half, which definitely helps with, I guess, some of the instances where, again, the guy tries to arm tackle him, but overall, he breaks enough tackles where I'm like, yeah, he's solid there. But anyways, his hand fluidness is really good. This really just comes back to late hands. Super coordinated. There was a play against, was it Oregon? No, it wasn't. Yeah, it was Washington State, that game. He absolutely lit them up that game. There was literally a play over the middle. They had some big-ass safeties, but one of them, one of the two guys, he was driving on him really quick, but he kind of showed his hands, came down, showed his hands again, and that completely made a difference in that play. He ended up making a back shoulder catch. But still, that was like, whoa, sort of moments there. Athleticism's really good. I don't really care, though. Again, he doesn't wow me too much, but still really good, at least immeasurably. I gave him 82 potential. He already has a really high floor, in my opinion. It's just how much higher can he really get? I think he'd definitely be a number one guy, but like a Cortland Sutton sort of ceiling, I think is somewhat comparable. Again, they're very similar in terms of jump balls. Again, Denzel really isn't an amazing route runner, like some people think he is. But yeah, 82.2 overall for Denzel. We'll see what happens with him in the All right, now on to Germie Bernard, the Alabama Crimson Tide receiver. Yeah, I'm not going to act like he was the most talented receiver in that room, but he certainly had the best hands in that room, and he's a very refined player here. Honestly, I think the things that kind of like put him under the radar in 2022 and 2023 were the fact that he just wasn't really a guy that you looked at as a, I'm not going to say a fun guy, but more of a guy that's going to really, again, show up on tape too often. But again, you really look at him the past 2 seasons, he is obviously more of a big play guy than you might think, but also the fact that he really doesn't mess up on any of his routes, because you can tell that he's been working on this a lot. That's what I'll say there. Very, very technically refined receiver coming out of the draft, which is huge. It's a big thing there. But is that cap his potential a little bit? Definitely a question to ask. But for Germie overall, his hands are really solid. Again, there's definitely some plays, again, especially throws that are behind him, where he'll probably drop it. Play here and there, he should have probably caught. It's nothing inexplicable, though, so that's what I'll say on that. Route running, I really like a lot. The problem with his medium routes is there's just not a lot of versatility you can have with him. He's not going to be a guy that can run like a double move-in route. It's just not going to be something that's really worthwhile for your offense, because, again, it takes him a little bit longer than you want to get open. Short routes always gets in throwing lanes perfectly on time. There's some routes he kind of curves off in terms of zigs, and it's kind of a weird thing, like on a choice route where he has to kind of hit and then go. Those are a little bit weird, but again, other than that, he's still really good. Like, precise routes for sure, he's going to get open every time. Deep routes gave an 83, nothing insane. If we're looking at maybe corner route, that's definitely, I think you can definitely see some greater things, because there's times where he can adjust it, where he can run a little bit flatter than you might have thought, and that's how kind of get open there, which is pretty cool. But anyway, deep ball checking is not great. This is kind of where I think a lot of people get turned off by him, because of the fact that you look at his game against Georgia, where there was definitely, I'll say Ty Simpson, his deep ball was all over the place at times last year. No, he's got a good deep ball. But that game it was really on, and Germie just really wasn't on the same page with him on that. And that was kind of disappointing. Speed, dead average, another thing that, again, kind of like blends him in there. He's not a burner whatsoever. He's quick, though, for sure. Acceleration, nothing really that's going to show off either. Again, elite route efficiency is probably the biggest thing here. It's rare, like I said, unless he's running like choice route or something where he hesitates really at all, or like struggles to get out of the break or anything like that. He's really good there, especially on these, again, quick hitting hitch routes against zone. Perfect. I don't care about his jump ball ability or his catch radius or his red zone feel at all. Those are all some things that won't really be too much of a factor for him in the league. I will say his route nuance is something that I think that should be even higher than this. He is a guy that has a lot of experience, and I was expecting him last year to have a more diverse route tree than we saw in 2024. But still, even though he added a couple of routes, it really was nothing insane. I do like the fact that he added a couple of adjustments, which I was happy for, but I was a little disappointed he didn't add a little bit more. But yeah, obviously a really good trade of his. It was something that I think he could definitely excel in now. Top of the route we already kind of got into. His release is not good, but he's never going to be an X anyway. He wasn't last year, at least. Very, very good yak receiver. He's very good at transitioning because, again, solid hand fluidness there. He makes a catch, brings it in. It's like a simultaneous thing with them. It's like basically a clinic with that. But yeah, makes him a much better guy there, and especially the fact that he can shake and bake, and even when he doesn't exactly get the juke off the way he wants to, he kind of has more room for error because of the fact that he breaks the tackle really well. This is probably the biggest thing with him that I think that, again, a lot of people you really can't ignore. He is an elite run blocker at this position. I'm not going to say schematically, Kalen DeBoer put him in a spot where he really could shine here, but still, it was rare where he didn't win a block, even against a linebacker at times, which was really cool. Athleticism, I gave an 82. So definitely an underrated trait of his, just not something, again, that's really going to flash at the screen to you, but still, he makes plays again, especially as a run blocker. You're like, yeah, he can get after it. Potential, I gave a 77, though. There's definitely a cap to what he's going to be in the league. I think Chris Godwin's a generous comparison, but they're very, very similar route runners, especially underneath, where I think that's, again, he's got a really high floor. It's just, again, this is kind of where his overall grade comes in, some of these other guys. He's not a guy I really see being a true, like, #1 go-to receiver. And for that reason, I gave him, again, a 78.7. But still, that's kind of what the potential is cap. But he's a very refined and experienced receiver, which I think is huge for any team that goes after.
They get it off. It's a 4-man rush. Cleaner pocket this time and a strike. Dejan Stribling splits the defense, stumbles into the end zone.
Next up is Dejan Stribling, a 3-team player. Obviously, last year with Trinidad Chambliss, he had himself a year, 811 yards, 6 touchdowns. Oklahoma State in 2024, I watched, I think, 8 of his games in total. I thought he was doing a little more bully ball than last year, but still, he was an explosive dynamo for that Ole Miss offense last year. He was a one-on-one merchant, to be honest with you guys, but hey, it worked. He showed a lot of good things against a lot of good players, which honestly I think was what he was aiming for. But again, he's really just a true X receiver, and kind of limited his production a little bit last year with Trinidad, but still, really fun season from him, and he made a lot of good adjustments too. But for Dejan Stribling as a prospect, overall, like I said, he's not that versatile, to be honest with you guys. He's, again, kind of that one-on-one sort of work off sort of thing, not really truly getting open, more the fact that I'm going to go and make a play over you sort of thing, which is cool. Speaks to his hands, though. He makes a lot of difficult catches, but there are times where if we're talking about a kind of a really defined route over the middle, where, again, especially if we're talking about these, I'm going to even say quick hitters, but you get out of your break, you're going to get the ball, those sort of things, not the greatest with. Despite him, again, being able to make a lot of really tough catches. Route running, none of it's really that precise. It's more the fact that it's delayed because of the fact that he really doesn't have any sharp cuts in his arsenal whatsoever. I maybe saw one, and that was partially because of cornerback slipped. I don't even know why it was that, but that was the route I saw. But overall, his route package, again, it really comes back to the fact that they're just none of them are really to a T. And that's kind of where it's like, yeah, he's not a great route runner, which is not a good thing, but like I said, that's not his game. His speed's definitely a 93. It's predicated on, again, that's what again everything's predicated on. Again, it's the fact that he's able to get going and make plays. Deep ball tracking is obviously awesome. I mean, he's making all these backstroke catches, like you gotta be able to find the ball, bro. But yeah, speed, elite. I don't know if the 40 really showed it, but on tape, guys, he's one of the faster guys in this year's draft, and for a bigger dude, it's like a physical speed sort of thing. Like, yeah, he can really move. Acceleration's also 96. Again, he doesn't need to get going. If you're pressing him and you don't beat him right away, he is gonna blow by you. That sort of thing. Yeah, but he's got really, really good speed and really good acceleration for his size for sure. Route efficiency is not great. While he does get moving really good, when he doesn't like decelerate great. In some of these routes where he has to like slow up and go, it's like a whole other train. But yeah, he gets going really well. Catch radius is obviously awesome. I mean, again, like I said, he's got a huge thing here. And also the one-hand things also help too. I don't care about his jump ball ability. That's not going to be much of his game. Again, it should be something he's better at, but he's just not. So, I mean, kind of a mystery there. It's mostly because he doesn't really high point the ball as much as you want. But anyway, all this is basically average. Yeah, his elusive, again, in terms of yak yardage, he's a guy that can make the catch. You kind of have a screen pass, he'll catch it and try to ram over you, which delays the play, I understand, but that is something he's actually pretty solid at. But yeah, he's not going to really, again, get around guys too great. Hand fluidness is actually pretty solid. This is where I think he gets, not even getting over the middle. We're talking about to the outside numbers. He's a guy that can kind of hold off a corner, which again, if we're talking about boxing out and kind of like reducing the risk of certain plays, again, a guy like playing with a guy like Matt Stafford who could throw a pick six here and there on the out routes, that's definitely something that he definitely prevents really well because of the fact that he has late hands there and also boxes guys out. Run blocking is really solid. He's just a physical run blocker, which I think a lot of these other guys just aren't, so definitely something that stuck out to me, even though the technique isn't too great. Definitely an impactful run blocker there, rare for the position. Athleticism, I gave an 80 because of the fact, like I said, he doesn't have that, I don't even say the vertical, he just doesn't have the, like, burst that I think some people would think he has. Obviously, we're talking about getting going or getting out of a break. He's pretty good. Or not pretty good. He's really freaking good. What am I talking about? There we go. But it's kind of like, it's not great. Anyways, though, I said an 83 for potential, though. This is a guy, again, like I said, could be a legit one-on-one threat, which, again, some guys can really make a name off of. That's why it's a 78.1 overall. He's a fun guy to talk about there. It's just overall his route tree is not great. Matt Collins to Mike Pearson, though, because he's not really great running out running either.
Virginia backs off. Moss stands in. Back shoulder to Bell. Did he make the catch? Yes, he did. Touchdown.
All right, now let's look at the biggest freight train in this year's class. There we go. That's Chris Bell out of Louisville. Yeah, that's definitely the way you pronounce it. But for him, honestly, guys, they basically said throw him the ball your way, and he's gonna make a play off of it, and that's what he did. I'm not gonna act like he's a guy you want to like throw on a freaking 40-yard in cut, but to each their own, I guess. But yeah, for Chris Bell, last season was definitely his most impressive season because of the fact they kind of took him off of these really, again, longer developing routes, and it kind of put him in a spot where he was able to be a lot more productive, and even especially in the red zone. He just fought himself in the end zone. Obviously, though, doesn't take a genius to figure this out. His best trait was when the ball is in his hand. But for Chris as a prospect, overall, the best thing I can say about his hands are the fact that he possesses the ball in a way that it's not going to get knocked out. It's probably the best way to put it. Again, he doesn't really just throw his hands out there and say, I'm gonna try to catch the ball. It's more like he puts them here, he's going to get it and bring it in. It's a very smooth transition there, and again, it kind of limits any really risk of him dropping the ball. His route running is kind of atrocious, I'm not going to lie to y'all. He runs some really nice short in cuts, really good slant runner, any sort of, you're not supposed to call it this, a reverse slant. Really, really good at those routes, but honestly, outside of that, there's just not a lot of good things to say there. When he runs a post or any sort of two combo moves downfield, he doesn't really stack the greatest to really, again, kind of adjust the route, which, again, also doesn't adjust the route well either in the first place. So those things are just kind of issues for me. Overall, not a great route runner. He tracks the deep ball well enough, but it's not something that, again, he does on a consistent basis, so that's why it's a 74. His speed is kind of just average, to be honest with y'all. There are times where he's able to beat a corner kind of like accelerating-wise, because, again, he does have good accelerating. He has good acceleration, but, again, still at the same time, it's not really something that's going to be, again, a huge, again, plus in his game. What the hell? What are we doing? I guess we can do that. His route efficiency, wait, what are we doing? I don't want that. Anyways, route efficiency, I give 69. You know, it's just really kind of nice, to be honest with y'all. Honestly, though, it's really just if you're talking about these comeback routes and any of these curls that are, like, quick hitters, yeah, he doesn't get out of the break, really, especially honestly. He's often not on time with those, but it's not my biggest deal there. What is going on? I don't want that. We're going to figure this out? No, we're not. Alright, anyways, yeah. I gave him a 90 for his catch radius. It really just comes down to the fact that there's just not many throws that, at least last year, Miller Moss put in a spot where he didn't make the play. And for that reason, that's why I gave him a 90. It's not really anything, like, too inconspicuous or measurably great. But yeah, he does have long arms. His jump ball boot is also really, really good. Just super physical, and it's really hard not to get displaced by him in the air, which is its own thing. Red zone field gave us 91. Again, makes a lot of plays there. I think he's definitely a developing trait of his, or not developing trait. Something I think is really just came on last year, which, again, is something that I think, again, if you really just look at his 2024 tape, you're like, you sure about that? So that was really big. No creativity in his routes. It's going to be a lot of vertical stuff where we'll kind of build off of it a little bit, but it's more or less what it's going to happen. There's not a lot of reaction or, like, improvisation off of it. I don't care about the top of the route with him. It's not that big of a deal. He's got really good release, though. He's like 3 different types. A lot of the ones against press are him jabbing and being able to accelerate off of that, and it's very hard for corners to time that up. Obviously, though, his best trait overall is his yak ability. Hand fluidness, I think, is definitely good enough for this to, again, be fully taken care of. But, yeah, if you look at him, he can make a guy miss pretty consistently open field, but really, overall, he's just going to break basically the first tackle every time a guy goes on him, which is, again, huge. Really is another guy in this draft class that has the same, again, at least to the degree that he's able to do it. Run blocking gave 73. I don't really care about that with him. He's a really good athlete, though. Just a powerful, explosive dude. 80 for the potential, though, because I don't think his route running is great. So we'll see. Traquan Smith, though, he was a big-time guy in the red zone. He was really athletic. So we'll see what happens there. But 79.4 for Chris Bell. Pretty damn good play.
Play action, stepping up and taking a shot downfield. And the catch is made by Concepción inside the
Over halfway now into KC Concepción, who again was part of that explosive receiver duo at A&M last year with Marcel Reed. Obviously, the other guy was Mario Craver, same thing. He's my number 2 receiver, I think. Coleman might be ahead of him right now on my big board. I don't know. But anyways, that's for 2027. He played at NC State for 2 seasons. Crazy 2023 year. 2024, they just didn't use him. I think that's what happened, right? No, it was more the fact that he wasn't really doing anything downfield. Last year, he was a lot more explosive. Still not a guy you look at as a true downfield threat, though, which is, again, the big drawback with him. But obviously, it really doesn't matter because he's the best returner that we've seen in the past 5 years. Obviously, All-American there. It's his best trait, obviously. But he's very versatile. Can run, again, very adequate route runner. It's just the fact that he's not really a downfield threat, which, again, was kind of what held part of A&M's pass game back last year when you only have really one guy there in Craver. But still, he did his thing, so that's good. But, yeah, KC Concepción, legit playmaker there. Honestly, for me, the biggest thing that I think that is a drawback for a lot of people with him is the fact that, yeah, his hands are bad. They just are. Anything in traffic where he's going to have to make a tough catch, he's just not going to make it. And there are some inexplicable drops that I think could be a little bit of an issue, again, in the future. But still, overall, it's just the fact that there are times where he, in traffic, he's just not going to be a very reliable guy there. But anyways, as a route runner, every single route he ran last year, except the one there's one against Miami that I really hated. But any slant you tell him to run, any sort of doubled, technique route, he is about as good as you can get there. He's definitely going to lead short route runner because he just simply gets so much separation. He's always on time with Marcel Reed. But even, I think, honestly, his medium route running, intermediate part of the field, especially on levels concept, you could even throw in a mesh there. He is going to be a really hard guy to not, again, you're going to have to track him really well because he's going to be in the throwing window on time, and he might even, create a throwing window, too, off of this. He's an elite short to intermediate of the field route runner, so crisp. Deep route running isn't as good because of the fact that he's just not really that big of a threat. I think part of his reaction feel gets diminished there. I don't have a true reason for why that is. There are some times though when you look at his feet, they're kind of off kilter, which it's kind of bizarre. But once you get downfield, it's just not that effective. Deep ball tracking is also not a great thing. Again, you obviously saw the play where he made a really nice play downfield, so I'm not going to say it's too bad. But there's definitely some plays I'm bro, you got to be kidding me. Where he just loses the ball. What are we doing? Speed, really good. Again, he's so much more quick than he actually is true speed. But again, even for a returner, honestly, guys, most returners aren't as fast as you think they are. But for him, again, it's kind of hard because he is a speedster, but again, it doesn't show up on the again against these corners as much as you think they would. As much as you think it would. Acceleration is really good. Again, this really just shows against the linebacker. He just absolutely torches them. I want to say more, but it's kind of obvious. And even against corners, it's hard to stay with that guy. His route efficiency is perfect. Again, this is where I can speak back to the routes. He has great feel. Again, when he needs to kind of adjust one of his stats, it's a very awareness-based thing with him, and it's, again, an absolute clinic. Catch radius to get 58. Yeah, he's a smaller guy. You're gonna have to put it on for sure. That's not even part of his game. Red zone feels awesome. It'll be interesting to see how that again develops in the league there. Love his route nuance. Goes back to these two right here. Other than that, though, I guess his release is really good. Again, he definitely struggles against press at times, but it's more the fact that he didn't time it up right, which is rare, which I think is the only issue with that. But other than that, yeah, really good release. Yeah. He makes at least one guy miss every play in terms of this elusiveness. He's that guy there. With Zachariah Branch a little bit, but they're very similar in that. Strength, I gave it 77. It's tough to say if I'd give it a little higher because he does break tackles. It's just, I think this shows it more as him as a returner. He is the worst run blocker in this year's class. I mean, he just doesn't block. There's no other way to put it. And I gave him an 85 for the athleticism because he's a really freaking good athlete. But yeah, 82 for potential. He should be a guy that's going to be very productive in the league. It's just how much does he actually get used. And at the end of the day, he's got a floor of a freaking borderline Pro Bowl returner. So that's huge. But yeah, we got an 80.8 from overall. And yeah, he's going to be a guy that's been pretty damn good. Zay Flowers comparison, though, because they are very similar route runners. The only difference is that Zay Flowers can actually run a deep dig better than he can, I guess.
Mendoza. Fade. Sarratt. Corner. Touchdown. Indiana.
All right, let's look at our first of two Indiana receivers, that's Elijah Sarratt, who followed Curt Cignetti after a monster 2023 season. And while he wasn't their number one option, I guess 2024 technically was, but last year, while he was not the number one option, he was a red zone merchant. Oh my God. Obviously, 15 touchdowns, led the country. His separation per route definitely took a dip from 2024, but they played better teams, and he showed up better against better teams. So, is that a paradox? No, it's not. But still, yeah, really nice senior season there, and he'll be an interesting guy to watch here in this year's draft. With that said, though, you look at him over his prospect. There's not a ton of things I'll talk about here that are really too standout-ish, but I will say that really the core principles with him and the fact that he is the farther down you get to get downfield. I don't want to see him be a decoy in a lot of routes, but this is kind of where it is. He runs a lot more bang for your buck routes past like 10 yards downfield, which isn't an awesome thing, but it's kind of where he sits because most of his short routes aren't really getting open to the clip where you need him to, or really where it's worthwhile if him running him consistently. But I will say, when he gets into the deep ball, he's very, very good. Over the shoulder, he's awesome, but it's more the fact that these back shoulder plays, he's very good at kind of concealing and kind of like boxing you off and to make the plays, which I think is very, very advanced and huge to his, again, kind of projectability there. His speed isn't anything special. He's able to stack consistently, but again, once you get to like 15 yards downfield, it's really not much of a difference. He doesn't accelerate great really at all. This kind of goes to the route efficiency, while he still is able to, again, be on time with a lot of balls and be able to, run the route to the throwing window effectively. It's not because he's able to get off breaks well. It's more the fact that he kind of, peels off the route a little bit at times, which works out really well. But other than that, I don't think his jump. I don't think his catch rate is actually as good as you think it is. There are times where again Mendoza threw it a little bit off, and it kind of just was kind of a flutterer, which is kind of an issue, but it's still really good overall. And he's a big dude. Yeah, his red zone feels honestly awesome. You don't catch 15 touchdowns without, again, not having that, but it's more honestly in like the middle of the end zone where he's actually done a really good job at finding areas, which I think is for a lot of people is kind of something that gets kind of goes under the radar, but with him it's a really big thing. So again, that's huge that he's again kind of mastered that. Top of the route, he creates a lot of separation with his hands. I'm not saying he gets offense PI, but yeah, really good at leveraging out there. Yeah, his elusiveness overall is a yak threat. He is literally just a breaking tackle centric guy. He has no wiggle. If you put him on a freaking screen, I'm gonna punch you in the face. But when he gets moving downfield, he's not an easy guy to tackle. Which I think again, a lot of people, I'm gonna say other scouts, but people who've watched his tape don't really again kind of like take the full degree of with that. And for that reason, I think it's something again. It's honestly his best trait overall because it's it's kind of like subconscious. Like, oh, he broke that tackle, cool. But it's not. That's like a legit thing he does really well. Hand fluence is also very good. Over the middle, there's a lot of routes where he kind of like, there's like a low pass, but he kind of like goes for it, and it makes it really hard for these lengthy corners to kind of be able to take advantage of their length there. But other than that, run blocking is not technically great, but he's still able to box guys out really well. Athletically, he's not a guy that thrives in my opinion, and I said a 76 for potential because I think he's going to be a pretty reliable second receiver. It's just he doesn't really get open, again, especially last year if we look at the target share, to like, we'll see about that. But Tyler Boyd's by comparison, very, very similar guys, again, in terms of their yak positions there. 77.6, though. He should be a pretty damn good guy in the league.
Has walked up. Who's coming? Who's dropping? They're all coming.
Ball quickly to the perimeter. Branch has a crease. Zach Branch in the front race. They won't catch him.
Now my bad, the joystick and the former USC Trojan, and guess last year was with Georgia, that being Zachariah Branch. He had a very productive season last year as a dump it off and make something happen receiver. I think he ran maybe like 15 routes past 20 yards downfield, which again is in its own thing a weird. But anyways, he had a very fun season last year, and he was obviously their most productive receiver at Georgia. But still, you're definitely like, is there something more there? But yeah, he made a lot of crazy plays on film. Or on tape that were pretty fun to watch. Even for casuals, you're like, oh yeah, let's go. That sort of thing. So that was good. But obviously, first year's USC was more of a flash and pan guy. Last year, you saw a lot more success. Is probably the best way to put it. But for Zachariah, overall, again, it doesn't take a freaking rocket science to figure out what he is. He is an actual joystick. I think that's probably the best way to describe him. I don't really have a great comp for him because of that, but he's a guy you dump the ball off to and kind of say, make 5 guys misses again in the end zone, and that's what he does. I will say, though, in terms of a route runner, his short routes are still really solid because of the fact that he's able to just kind of like I wouldn't say shove a guy off, but kind of create space, which honestly is a very hard thing to do, especially the NFL where you get a lot of congestion underneath. Does this very, very well. Just getting kind of splits off, makes the play, and that's great. So, great there. But yeah, obviously he's a very limited guy with medium deep routes just because of the fact that none of his routes are really to where you want him to. Any sort of cut he makes is kind of rounded off. and I mean rounded off, I mean really rounded off, and it's kind of hard for, a guy like Gunnar Stockton to consistently get on the ball for that reason. Again, it takes like an extra hitch to make the throw, and that can absolutely do a lot of problems. Hands, I don't really care about because he doesn't drop a ton of passes, but there are times where it's a little bit of an issue. He doesn't check the deep ball well at all. There was one play, literally the only reason he dropped it is because he didn't see it until the final half second, which was an issue. So yeah. Anyways, speed, I gave it 93. Again, you look at him and you just look at a guy like him. For a receiver to be able to make the plays, or not, I want to say make the plays, you gotta have you gotta have some freaking burners to make the plays he makes. It's just that simple. Acceleration obviously is off the charts. Gone. That sort of thing. Route efficiency is awful. Like I said, rounds out every route. What are we doing? I don't really care about either of these things. I mean, yeah, catch release a little bit, but I mean, it's freaking screen pass. Figure it out. Red zone feels honestly pretty damn good. Again, that's where I think there's a little bit of a disconnect. Yeah, he had 6 touchdowns last year, but you're get him going to the red zone a little bit more, because there were definitely some times when London Humphreys runs were out and he's just not really in the right spot because he can kind of feel out where things were. And I think that if you want Zachariah out there, you got to figure it out. But anyways, other than that, he is not an effective guy in terms of a release package. That's why you'll never see him as an X. It'll literally be just in the slot, maybe as a Z at times, but still not a big part of his game. No react strength whatsoever. It's just not going to. He's going to make you miss. That's what he's going to do, and he's going to do a lot. Hand fluidness, I think he's really solid. He's developed this, honestly. You can look at USC back in 2024. Big part of his game. Last year, not as much, but still a solid trait of his. Run blocking, honestly, isn't even that bad. Some people are like, what the hell are you talking about? He's not a physical guy, but trust me, he's a decent blocker. Obviously, special athlete here. Again, even at high school, he was one of the best recruits in the country here, receiver. He's going to be, obviously, premier athlete there. 81 for the potential. I don't see a screen merchant being that great, to be honest with you guys. It's kind of hard to project that for him, though, but he should be a good player. Just how much does he really get? What is his role going to be in the NFL sort of thing? But yeah, 79.1 for Zachariah. Yeah, he's an absolute, again, screen merchant.
Malik Brown takes his turn. Off play action. Levitt's playing Frogger back there. He found Tyson. Airborne. Got it. Outrageous.
Now we're on to Mr. Made of Glass himself. That's Jordan Tyson out of Arizona State. After back-to-back huge seasons, obviously last year the injuries were an issue. It was the ankle and the hammy. But yeah, he is just simply put, he's gonna make you want to quit football after you play against him. It didn't take me long to figure out who the best receiver in this draft class was. We'll get into him in a little bit. We'll get into him in a quick second. But yeah, just the fact that again, when you went against Arizona State, if you didn't have at least 2 guys that could match up with him physically, you were going to be cooked. And even then, you needed at least 2 guys on him at all times. And it obviously didn't work out for a lot of teams. But yeah, he's just a dog. That's the best way to put it. But for Jordan, obviously very, very talented. There's not a lot of flaws, in my opinion, that really need to be addressed. Because honestly, guys, there isn't a part of his game that I really think is a true weakness. Honestly, I think his hands could be a little bit better because there are times where the ball gets batted away. Again, there are passes that are broken up against him. It might be because he just kind of took the play off of sorts, but that's probably the one thing. There's certain guys in this year's class. I'm really just looking at Denzel Boston, Carnell Tate, where even if the route isn't going too well, you throw in the right spot, they're going to make the catch. Jordan Tyson, there's times where that's just not going to happen. So that's where I think the difference is there. His route running is absolutely phenomenal. Again, when you get to deeper medium routes, again, everything's about as perfect as you're going to get there. It's because of the fact that his hips and lateral really security is probably the best way to put it. In his, not his hips, but in his I don't even know. It's really in his running gait. They're very there's a lot of wiggle room to them, and that allows for all these routes to kind of be adjusted into a way to where he's kind of putting himself in a spot to make the play, which is hard to find. Just because, again, there's not many guys that have that movement, again, between their feet and their hips. It just doesn't happen very often. D-ball tracking is also legit. I mean, anything thrown back shoulder or awkward movements, he's going to make the play on. I don't want to say George Pickens, but that's probably the best way to put it. Speed. Well, he's not, you wouldn't call him a burner. It's still really good because he stacks that he really can get moving. Again, I'm not going to say his acceleration is special, but that's part of the reason because, again, his release off the line is very, very good because of the fact that he can get going. I'm not going to say solely based on quickness, but it is. But yeah, his speed, he's got legit speed. It's just not something that I think is, again, a true separator per se. What is, though, is his route efficiency. It's very rare to see a route he runs where he's not, I'm not going to say curving it off, but curving it off in a way where he's going to be able to get to the ball faster and make it harder for a corner with, again, a lot of length. We're talking about these bigger corners, they're not able to get to the ball because he's able to kind of like cut them off per se. Well, they want to cut him off. You get the point. I don't really want to talk about his jump ball ability. I mean, he just kind of big mans everybody. It's pretty funny to watch. Red zone field is probably the one thing I think that he can definitely get better at. There are times where he is, I'm not going to say the back of the end zone, but against these really tight zone looks, and again, even like if you're talking about kind of a shorter corner route there going to the end zone, there are times where he doesn't really, again, find his feet the greatest, which is kind of weird, but doesn't really work well for him. Other than that, though, his release, like I said, again, it's solely based on quickness. He's over-reliant on that, which can definitely be an issue. But other than that, I don't really see anything. He gets open so well at the top of his route. Hand fluidness is also phenomenal. Very, very late hands there. I give him 110 for run blocking. Yeah, he's just a freaking phenomenal run blocker. Obviously, this didn't completely contribute to the grade, but yeah, absolute dog there. 93 for the athleticism. Again, it's really just, again, his body control is just out there. And then obviously, he's got really high potential as well. I mean, you just don't find guys like this that are able to be as dominant as he was. But 89.2, I got Brandon Lloyd, who's an absolute monster that 1 year in Denver. But, yeah, he kind of fell off with the injuries. But so 89.2 for Jordan Tyson. But yeah, again, you could put that down a little bit with the injuries. But hey, I mean, to each your own, I guess.
Got to get this first.
3-man rush. Vignano down the seam for Bell. He brings it in. Skyler Bell.
All right, let's look at Skyler Bell, the UConn receiver. He should have won the Biletnikoff last year. Was still an All-American. He led the country in basically or virtually every single receiving stat outside the guy at San Jose State. But San Jose State is not a real school, so there you go. But after a 2024 season where he was the best UConn receiver arguably ever. Last year, he definitely was the best UConn receiver ever. As again, he put up absolutely insane numbers with Joe Vignano. And he got like triple teamed every single route and still put up 98.3 yards per game. Absolutely ridiculous stuff there. Propelled himself way up here in the draft, and he is I'm not gonna say a premier talent in this year's draft because he's 6'1", 190, but bro, he's gonna make a crap ton of plays in the league. And he was literally the guy last year, so say that for sure. But anyways, for Skyler Bell as a prospect, overall, guys, he is a very refined route runner. Most of UConn's playbook was flexible, which I thought was honestly a pretty weird thing for what they were doing last year. But again, it really helped Skyler kind of separate himself from some of these other receivers that run a lot of routes basically on discipline rather than, I'm not going to say feel, but kind of instincts. Most of his routes last year, especially the shorter ones, had a lot of room for kind of interpretation is probably the best way to put it. And his interpretation, telling y'all that right now, is right there with the best of these guys. So that's kind of where you saw all these things show up really well on tape. His hands, though, he has at times, part of the reason he transferred was his hands. He got some inexplicable drops. Last year, not much of an issue, but still something to keep in mind because he could definitely drop a pass for a wide open touchdown. Anyway, though, G-ball tracking is obviously legit. It really comes down to the fact you have like two guys on his back. He's still going to find a way to make the play. So big time there. Speed for me is really functional. Definitely something that you can use to advantage for him, but he's not a true separator here. He's not a guy that's, again, like I said, a true speed threat either. So, important note there. Acceleration kind of goes hand in hand with that. His route efficiency is probably the best in this year's class. I mean, outside of, I guess you could say Tyson, but yeah. Oof. Catch radius is not great because, like I said, he's a little undersized, so that's not going to be a great thing for him. But honestly, guys, I think he kind of shut down some of the concerns some people have with that because of the fact that, again, some of the plays he made last year against some bigger dudes, to say the least. Other than that, though, I want to say, yeah, his top of the route, he's very, very good. I'm going to say about 80% of the routes he runs where he truly gets, again, wide open is because of the fact that he completely splits off to that point, which is a big plus for any team that drafts him. His release, though, it's not great. It's not that it's not, again, he has, like, I think 2 or 3 things to use, but none of them are really great, and he really overly relies on a sudden move. Not exactly straight up, I'm going to, like, quickly get by you. It's more of a 1, 2, and go, like a delay thing, then a quick move. And those things, I think, are a little bit, again, it's going to be hard to see how they work on the league. Also, another underrated thing about him is, again, he can be a guy, really look at last year, or then while he was, again, not last year, 2024, where he's really just a downfield guy. Very, very, again, capable yak guy, because he's able to make the first guy miss almost every single time. Really good dead leg. It's a big part of his game. Again, obviously, Zachariah Branch is better, but that's something they share in common a lot. His hand fluidness is something I think he definitely get better at. There's times over the middle he gets the ball knocked down. That's just, again, a personal take of mine. Again, it's not, again, a shared thing, but that's what I definitely see maybe a little bit of an issue in the league. Run blocking, not overly dominant. Not something that gets really, it's not really too notable, though. And I said his athleticism is an 82 because, again, he's a solid athlete, but nothing that, again, completely, again, makes you take note. 85, though, for potential. Again, Scott had a really solid combine. I love this tape. 80 overall, though. Pretty damn good prospect. Doug Baldwin. like that comp a lot.
Easily over 200 combined. Blitz, floats one. Omar Cooper, got it! And still rolling. Omar Cooper.
All right, guys, we're now on Omar Cooper Jr. Again, he has gone way up draft boards recently. There's a lot of people that are very high on him. In my opinion, while he makes some insane plays, and it's, again, obviously the Penn State game, he is not a guy, in my opinion, that consistently performed at the level where I think I can really buy into what he's going to be in the NFL. But yes, is he a big play demon? Absolutely. Anyways, though, he didn't play his freshman in Indiana. 2023, that wasn't a real team. 2024, last year, 2 years ago, Indiana. I'm not going to lie, I think I saw maybe 12 of his best plays, and then obviously most of his other tape. But those were really the only ones that I completely charted out. And those plays were, there were definitely some good things with that. He obviously beat up against bad teams. That's probably the best thing I can say about him. He put up some big-time numbers. But still, he's a guy that will go out there, make an acrobatic catch here and there. Again, he's just an absolutely, again, explosive demon, and he, again, kind of a bomb taking to go off in that sense, despite maybe not having the explosive nature that you might think he'd have. But yeah, absolute freaking beast. For Omar, though, overall, his route running, honestly, is just atrocious. His medium routes, none of them are on time. I mean, Mendoza, I'm like surprised. He kind of has to float it out there. But a lot of his routes he runs are kind of like he has to kind of go off of them. There's not any sort of cohesion. And that's something, again, I really don't like. There's some receivers in the league that get away with it, but in terms of like an actual overall sustainable offense, that's just not something you're going to see with him there. Hands are solid though, for sure. I mean, he makes some ridiculous catches, guys. Deep ball tracking is really good too. That's more the fact that, again, kind of can adjust off his route, which I guess is a good thing, but his speed, I think that's probably a big thing here. A lot of people think he's an absolute burner. He's just not. It's very rare to see him stack immediately off the line, and even then, he doesn't have that. Again, I think, honestly, the best way to say a third gear, where the ball gets in the air and he just, breaks away from the player on the route. But still really good. Or solid. We'll say solid. He doesn't accelerate well at all. That's kind of where these routes come in. Again, like I said, he's kind of got to peel off of it because most of the time, he's just not in the right spot at the time because, again, he had an ugly cut here or there. Kind of works out there. But anyways, back on this. Route efficiency, not much to talk about there. His process is kind of weird, and it's because of the fact that instead of taking, again, you take like a hard jab to get out of the route, it's more of like a stutter. It works because he usually gets open with it, but it's not good for, like I said, efficiency. Catch radius is not great. You'd think it would be a lot better than this, but it's just not. He does make up for it with a very good jump ball ability. Like, he's going to go up and just make plays, guys, obviously, but it's not because he high points the ball as what you'd think he would. Other than that, though, I don't really care about any of these freaking technical things here with them. Again, he flat out does what he needs to there. His release is really good, so powerful, and he also is kind of a good it's honestly a hezzy. It works really well for him, though. Anyways, yeah, his hand fluidness is really good. Late hands, any throw, again, this is what we're talking about. Again, he usually isn't kind of a dogfight of a route. Most times he comes down with the ball because of the fact that he is so late to it, and again, kind of the cornerback, they're not really anticipating throughout the route on him because they're just absolutely they're going at it with each other. But it's more the fact that, again, he puts it out there and the cornerback, oh, finally the ball. So that sort of thing, and then obviously he's able to make the play. Strength, yak, huge. Any sort of ball in the middle where he has momentum and you get it to him in stride, he's going to break like 4 tackles and bring that thing to the house. That's where I think the bomb taking go off actually really can come into play. His run blocking isn't great. I think that overall his athleticism is obviously really good, but he's not, at least laterally, that great. So I think that's kind of where it kind of comes to a halt. But still, 79.5 overall for Omar. So while he's definitely a flawed, true receiver, his route running I don't think is as big of an issue because of the fact that he's very aggressive and very physical, similar to Jacoby Myers, because he's never been a guy that's really been a great never been a great router in the league, but again, he's been able to make up for it. Kind of got overlooked because of that. But anyways, Omar Cooper is definitely not going to get overlooked. I'll tell you that right now.
Already more carries than he had in week 1. Mayapa back to the air. One-on-one lane. Oh, no. Chin with one hand. Ridiculous.
And that is Jacoby Lane out of USC. He is a kind of, I'm not going to say a highlight merchant, but he kind of is. He had 12 touchdowns in 2024. That year, it was a lot of, I'm not going to say fades, but that's kind of what it was. Most of his route tree, that was not even most. He had 5 routes, guys. Not even going to lie. He barely ran anything. And it's not because I don't think his outbreaking routes were really a problem. It was more because most of his leverage outside of the fades were geared toward the inside because they didn't really have much of a concern of him burning them over the top. This year, that was kind of a big difference. I think a good thing with him. He was a lot more of a threat downfield, but still, the in-breaking routes were still a primary thing with him, which I think is definitely a little bit of a concern going into next year without any sort of, again, like kind of expansion of his game. But still, Jacoby last year, why are we still on Omar Cooper? There we go. Jacoby last year showed a lot of good things, specifically with his route tree becoming a lot more precise. Short routes are never going to be a great thing with him. Like I said, talk about receivers and kind of like what you want to do with them. If they're not kind of the primary guy in the route, I don't want him to be kind of a check down guy because of the fact that, while he can sort of be a yak threat, I guess, he's not going to get open to a degree where he can still pick up yards without having to, display an ability of breaking a tackle or something like that. Especially when putting it nicely. His medium routing solid. It's more the fact that I just skipped. His medium routing solid because of the fact that he's able to use two variations of shoulder fakes to kind of create the separation and still stay on the efficiency of the route. Well, again, he's not getting the most efficient. It's still again kind of a worthwhile thing with him, and that's a big difference in his route tree. Again, we talked about him going vertically, where he's really solid because he can climb up really well. And I honestly like the fact that his double move is filthy. That's where it comes in there. Deep ball tracking solid. More back shoulder than anything, though. Speed, really good. Does take him a little bit too long to get accelerated. Very violent steps to kind of get into the route quick enough, but most of the time, I don't see that as much of an issue. But again, in the league, if we're talking about a guy who isn't able to kind of adjust a little bit there, we'll see. His catch radius is really good. Obviously, big-time jump ball guy. That's what we're kind of talking about the red zone there. I don't really care about any of these. I guess the top route kind of needs to be better. That's a fair thing to say. And his release is really bad because it's slow and not good. But other than that, guys, I like his red zone feel like who really cares? He's just gonna go up and make the play anyways. It doesn't matter. But yeah, hand fluid is honestly really, really good. If we're talking about that and really in the end zone here, there's a lot of plays where I'm not gonna say like Omar Cooper Jr., but very similar. They're in a dogfight. They need to be able to kind of have that like extra advantage outside of just the leverage, and it's being able to put the hands up late and make it a lot easier on the quarterback to put the ball in the right spot. Other than that, though, the athleticism is, I think, solid. It's just something that really doesn't blow me away, despite him being a very good jump ball receiver. It's more than leverage and strategy than anything, as well as him being, not the smallest guy in the world either, so that's big. But overall, I look at him. Mike Williams, very, very valid comparison there. Other than the fact that I think Mike Williams definitely is a little bit more of a deep threat. But for Jacoby, the reason it's 76 is because I don't think there's going to be a lot of plays, offenses where he's going to simply be able to thrive. So a little bit of an issue there, but still, caveat with Mike Williams, I think is a really good thing for him. But yeah, 75.8 overall for Jacoby. Yeah, let's see what these overall rankings are like. All right, guys, we started out with Antonio Williams, who came out to a 74 overall. I didn't want to discuss this too much, but again, while he does get open, or doesn't get open, he creates a lot of separation. Again, honestly, probably above average for these 15 guys. There's not really one innate, at least physical trait that I look at him where I'm like, yeah, that's really good. And also, his route efficiency, I don't really think is as good as you might think it is. That's where the 74 comes in. He doesn't really have, again, anything that really stands out with him, despite the fact that obviously he gets open really well. Chris Brazzell, 79.9, absolute beast downfield. He'll be an interesting guy to watch, again, especially, honestly, in the second round, because there's a lot of teams that need that explosive threat, and he'll be that. Makai Lemon, he's probably the most advanced route runner in this year's class. There's a ton of nuance in what you see with him. There's not really any sort of thing you can kind of stick to him because he's going to adjust the route to what the corner is doing, which I think is a huge upside on top of the fact that he reads the defense really, really well. Yeah, Makai Lemon's just a very advanced player, and he's going to get you a guy that's going to get open on every single route. Carnell Tate, 86.7, kind of this jump ball sort of guy, but he is insanely high ceiling in terms of the again, the fact that he just catches every pass that's near him. So that's huge. Then you look at Denzel Boston, very similar to the fact that he's going to be a big-time jump ball guy, but more the fact that I think he is more of a kind of separator than Carnell Tate, but there is definitely a little less dominance and kind of like, I don't even say route running polished, but that's kind of the best way to put it. He's not the most polished route runner. That's like a big difference between the two, and I don't really know if he ever will be that. So that's kind of, at least physically, something to talk about there. Germie Bernard, very refined, very technical receiver for sure. He knows what the hell is going on. There's definitely a physical cap to his game, though, which I think kind of hurts him a little bit, but still, very solid prospect. Should definitely get a lot of looks. Stribling, again, like I said, he's the one-on-one guy. You throw it up to him, he's going to make the play, but again, there's only so much you can really do with that. But again, definitely have a huge role in the NFL. Chris Bell at 79.4, Yak Demon. He's an absolute freaking freight train. Not really that much else you have to say. Casey Concepcion, obviously the returner person. That's probably the best way to put it. Also, elite yak threat in the for sure in the NFL. It'll just be how much of a downfield threat can he become to, you know, at least give them some again a cornerback something with that there. Elijah Sarratt, physical guy for sure. Doesn't have, again, really a true explosion. Again, we look at the guy like Omar Cooper, but definitely very reliable guy. Box out guy for sure. Big time possession too. He's got really reliable hands. It'll just be interesting to see how his route running again gets better going in the NFL. Zachariah Branch, we already looked at him again in comparison with Concepción. I just braked. Very similar there. Obviously, both really good returners. I'm not going to say they're the same because he is he's going to just tweak out of you. I think he's definitely a little bit less of a capable receiver in terms of we're talking about downfield, but they're both not great there. So, yeah, but yeah, Zachariah, 79.1. Jordan Tyson, 89.2. Simply put, he's the most dominant receiver in this year's class. He's the most talented. And I want to say most talented, but there aren't many guys that are able to just go out there and run a route the way he is. Just that simple. Skyler Bell, 80. He's definitely the most productive guy out of this year's class. Doesn't really have a ton of traits that truly stand out, but there's a lot of things he does really, really well in terms of the route tree, which is huge. Omar Cooper, already talked about, he's an absolute ticking time dime. Jacoby Lane, 75.8. We just went through him. So, yeah. But anyways, overall rankings. Here are my top 15 receivers. Again, like I said, Makai Fields, he's wide receiver 16 again, if you're really wondering. But anyways, yeah, Jordan Tyson's my wide receiver 1, Carnell Tate and Makai Lemon, normal big 3. Denzel Boston, really close, number 3 there. Number 4 there. He's just a guy that I don't think is as good of a route runner as any 3 of these guys. On top of the fact that I think, again, these are the 4 that you look really like who are dominant in college. But yeah, Concepción, big time playmaker. He'll be a guy that makes a lot of plays in the league. And obviously Skyler Bell. Arguably the best true route runner in this year's class. I still think Jordan Tyson, though, overall, again, just because of his feel and his ability to straight up get open off those routes and capitalize on some of those opportunities better than Skyler Bell, even though he might be a little more precise. That's kind of where there's a difference there. I'll talk about the rest of the guys for days. I'll definitely break them down when they get drafted. Obviously, the big board will be coming out soon, too. But that is all I have for y'all here in the 2026 NFL Draft wide receiver rankings. Hope you guys enjoyed. See y'all for the quarterbacks before the mock draft comes out. But yeah, the NFL Draft is coming right up.
This is Johnson Jr. and he is going to take it the distance. Can you believe that? With 35 seconds left in the half, he goes 87 yards when they had all but said, okay, we're going to run out the clock. Unbelievable.
So right here, you're going to see the play come to your right side of the screen. And then here, you just see he's trying to take an angle, but I'll tell you what,